So I am 4 steps actually below the terrace, which we'll show you in a moment. But we wanted to show you this outdoor kitchen space. So this is all done in cedar. Again, the client has fabulous taste and he's got this beautiful furniture that he set out here for um, for living and dining or whatever you name it. We put in the outdoor kitchen here. We just did a long 16-foot countertop. There's cement on top, and then we cut in the sides so that you could put chairs and eat in with it. And then it still felt a little bit too open. So we came in and put these, it's not a pergola. It's just really this wooden structure, mainly for me, so that we can grow vines up it. And there's vines you'll see in a moment that we planted on every one of these posts. So it really just made this feel much more like an outdoor room than if we had put here nothing at all. And just, again, yes, you've got the woods around us, but we wanted to bring the space in a little bit closer, which I also think is really important when doing landscape design. So I wanted to show you this section. So you can see there's the pool in the distance, and we have the concrete for the slab here of the pool deck, and then we've got the decking. But I was afraid it was a little bit too much hardscape, and I was also worried about the very hot sun that was back here. So at the last minute, we cut out this 8-foot wide section, and we put in these large birches. As the sun goes and sets there in the west, then the shade comes back over the patio, and then you can really enjoy this beautiful seating area without baking in the sun. The other thing, we've got more grasses in here, more ferns in here, and then again, another one of my favorites. This is, again, just the first year. This is prairie dock, and I'm going to put some more in here, but I just thought when this gets going with the really big leaves butted up against the sharp edges of the concrete and the deck, I just thought that would be really gorgeous. And the client has done a really fabulous job lighting everything. I mean, there's just not too much, in my opinion. I think it looks really great, but at night, it's quite the beautiful sight. This is actually all natives. For those that are like, hey, I thought you were a native guy. I am. This is all natives back in here that we planted, and some of the grasses look like they're dead. That's all little blue stem. Basically, I overwatered the cells when they were sitting on my property because we couldn't get in here until after the 4th of July. So we just came back in and put in over 1,000 plugs of little blue stem in here. And then there's wild quinine, and actually, if you come over here, you'll see, you only saw the big ones out front, but these are actually the little cells of the Baptisia, the wild blue indigo. And we put those all through here, and we also have white wild indigo in here as well. So this will really be something when this gets going. And I'll tell you, one of the best things about working on this project is one of the homeowners is an interior designer, and we actually saw eye to eye on a lot of stuff. So it was very fun to have a collaborator. I would come up with the designs, and for the most part, little tweaks here and there. We were really on the same page. And again, keeping with my themes of boardwalk, we have this big tennis court here, beautiful tennis court. We were a little worried when it first went in of the mass of it, but the client was awesome in choosing the 2 greens on the base of the court rather than, I think typically it's like either blue or maroon. So that really faded in. They did the black fence, and then we ran a boardwalk all along to get up to the tennis court. And behind you, you'll see this is the first year, and I think it's the first time we've shown it in film, is a seeded meadow. So all of that has been seeded with native plants, and what you see right now, actually, after I say that, is not native, which is the annual oatgrass. So the annual oatgrass is coming up now. There's little natives that are starting, but again, it's the first summer and it's mid-July. It'll be a while before they get blooming, but the oatgrass is there to help break up the compacted soil. They got deep root systems, so that breaks it up after construction. It won't come back next year, and then it'll add some nitrogen to all of that sand. And yes, I know native plants don't need the nitrogen, but all plants need some, and this was almost pure sand. So it'll be nice once the annual oatgrass dies, and then all those roots will be left behind. And then here along the border, just what we showed you before, we decided to do all of that in plugs. So as this meadow gets going, I wanted to make sure the client has something else to look at. So by putting in the plugs, it really speeds this section up by about 3 years. This all just got planted over the last couple of months, and we've got a combination of grasses and our favorite rattlesnake masters, and actually a lot of the baptisia too. But once all this fills in, this will probably get about this high, and I think it'll give the client some comfort as the rest of the meadow comes in. I didn't want to neglect to mention all the trees that we planted here. Again, I like to plant the same species in. Mostly I plant native, but again, there are some non-natives in here, but these are native. These are, so we put American beech here. And the reason I love the beech trees is they, after the leaves turn tawny brown, they stay on the tree all the way through winter. They do not fall off again until the new leaves come off. And then just before they turn off, they turn almost a tissue paper white, and it's gorgeous. And then they drop off. So we've got the beech trees here. These are all slender silhouette sweet gums. These trees really won't get much more than 3 or 4 feet at the most wide, but I love them because they're like big exclamation points in the garden, and then they turn a fiery red in the fall. So the idea here was we loved the cypress trees that you see, especially like in the Mediterranean and like when they're playing on the tennis courts and things. So one of the owners loves to play tennis, so we thought it would be a hoot to put up these tall, slender silhouette sweet gums along the tennis court here in West Michigan. And then of course we have the birches that we talked about that are providing shade for the living space as the sun starts to go down. And we brought these in fairly big. These were already 15+ footers when we brought them in to get planted. And then if we swing up, and we're going to show you the planter box in a moment, but we continued with the birches in the planter box. And then if you on the far right, that we really needed another vertical, so we put another slender silhouette sweet gum in the terrace, the sort of planting terrace off the main terrace. This is another one of my very favorite parts of this project. So we have the terrace wall and we have the aggregate patio on the top, and the client loves purple, and again we love the lavender because the deer don't eat it. So we outlined all of the spaces in lavender as it goes around the pool. We also put in some Virginia creeper. The vine will start to go a little bit horizontal and go across. And of course, it'll be beautiful. Virginia creeper has that beautiful red color in the fall. We also the client definitely wants to look at the concrete, but of course the nice thing with the native vine like Virginia creeper, or any vines for that matter, we can just cut it off at the bottom and let it regrow every year. It'll kind of spread quickly. So that's basically all we have in here. There is some over here. We do have some of that Carly Rose fountain grass, not a native, but I do have some native rosin weed. That's that tall plant right there. They'll get yellow flowers. But again, this is only the second year of the lavender, and that will all start to spill out. And I should mention, because you'll see a lot of these boxwoods, I've never been a fan of them, but the client really loves them and brought them from their other property, and I've actually really grown to like them too. There's so much going on here, a lot of stemmy plants, a lot of flowers, a lot of grasses, and I think they provide a really nice contrast to the rest of the property. On this side, this is what we call Beulah's Landing, and I got to point out a mistake. Originally, this concrete slab was supposed to stop somewhere over here by the outdoor shower, but when we came back one day, it had gone all the way to the edge, so we had to come back in and cut out this space in order to put in this trellis. On the trellis, we've got wisteria, honeysuckle, and orange trumpet vine that are growing up on these, and then we've got some grasses on the bottom. I'm using these same plants, and in fact, here's a really good example of the Terra drop seed. The Terra Prairie drop seed, the hybrid, not these, but you can see how it's tall and spiky that gets. And then we get another Carly Rose, some more lavender, goldenrods, and more grasses in the back. Makes for a really lovely box. Another one of my favorite parts of this project, or maybe the favorite part, is this planter box. Again, we kept the exposed concrete. We went back and forth about what kind of a lip we were going to have, but in the end we ended up with something that's fairly similar to the concrete. Again, I'm using Virginia creeper here on the walls. We've got our grasses. We've got some prairie drop seed and the Terra drop seed again. And we've got the goldenrods in the back. And look at these cone flowers. Are really loving it. Our native cone flowers here, gotten really nice and tall. Again, non-native ladies mantle, but again, it has those colors that I was looking for. And I'm not sure if you, oh, here we go. So this is the grass that was also in the front that wasn't blooming quite yet, but this is, and I don't usually mention the names because I think it's hard to remember, but this is Deschampia cespitosa gold-tube. Deschampia cespitosa is a native grass, although I wasn't able to get it when I did this project. And this is the hybrid version of it, but it's just going to do this gorgeous cloud of seed heads in chartreusey color. And again, I think of all the spaces in this project, if I do say myself, I do think that turned out pretty fabulous. I'm very proud of it. So we're actually on the back side of the pool where we just showed you with the lavenders and things like that. But what I wanted to point out here is we had a beautiful space that already had all of these beautiful carex grasses that were coming in here. We actually have carex grayi, and this I think is bristle, carex bristle or sedge bristle. I don't know. We'll fix it in the with the little print under the picture. But we made sure that we kept the construction off and out of this wet area because we would have just had to have replanted this, right, and restored it. But we've got the ferns, there's some Joe Pye weed that comes in here, but it was already beautiful. And this is just a really important lesson that if there are parts, especially when you're developing, if you're doing a couple of acre project in the woods and you see some beautiful stuff, keep the traffic off of it during construction because this is a beautiful spot, this whole wetland area that's going to go into the meadow. And in fact, everything that I'm standing on that's mulch here, this was already mulched, but this was already seeded. So you can also see that we've got the annual oak grass, but the meadow actually flows around the back from the tennis court, along the swimming pool, and then maybe get a shot here and then back up against the house where we've got more ferns and a walkway that takes you to a little separate patio.